Brenda was only 10 years old when her father died. Her mother had already remarried, and her stepfather wanted to adopt her after the natural father passed away. The problem is that Brenda was receiving Social Security benefits because of her father's death. If her stepfather adopted her, guess what? Those benefits would be stopped. And the benefits amounted to about $1,300 a month. That's a lot of money. Because of that, guess what? Her stepfather didn't adopt her. You know, the law allows a child of a deceased parent to receive Social Security death benefits until the child either turns 18 or graduates from high school. The child has to be unmarried and under 18 years of age when the deceased parent has died. And the deceased parent must have worked long enough to have paid Social Security taxes. Benefits are generally going to stop when the child turns 18 unless the child is a full-time student at a secondary or elementary school and is younger than 19. If that's the case, the child has to complete a statement of attendance certified by a school official and turn back into Social Security. At that point, the benefits will continue until the child either graduates or until 2 months after the child reaches 19, whichever occurs first. The benefits will also automatically stop if the child is adopted by their step-parent. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's fair. It discourages step-parents from stepping up and adopting their stepchildren when the natural parents passed away, and that's not good law. It needs to change. I think we need to encourage adoption in these situations and not discourage it, and the law clearly discourages it. What do you think? John was a 55-year-old senior airlines captain making over $250,000 a year. He had a 6-year-old little boy, and he was on his third marriage. He had just finished paying child support for his 2 oldest children who had aged out and had just finished paying alimony to his second wife. Now, all of a sudden, his third wife, the mother of his 6-year-old son, has filed for divorce, wants to get out for whatever reason. Well, he's fed up with the system. He's disgusted. He's jaded. He's been paying child support and alimony for the last 25 years. He's tired of it. So what does he do? He quits his job so he won't have to pay child support or alimony. Bad decision on John's part. Here's the deal. If you are capable of making money, that's what the court is going to look at. Your earning ability, not what you're actually earning. So when John quit his job as an airline captain, guess what? The judge is still going to count that as income, the amount that he was making as an airline captain, because he quit that job voluntarily. And believe it or not, on his exit interview, what did he tell the interviewer? That he was quitting because he was sick and tired of having to pay alimony and child support. And when the judge saw that, he really had no choice but to impute that income to him, the income he was making as an airline pilot. Yet he ends up having to pay $2,100 a month in child support. Doesn't seem fair, but at the same time, it does seem fair, doesn't it? I had a case a few years ago. I was representing the husband. It was about a 10-year marriage. And throughout that entire marriage, the wife was the one that was responsible for paying all of the bills. Husband worked, wife didn't. Wife stayed home with the kids. Wife took care of the business of the house, including paying all the bills. Problem was she wasn't paying the bills. Husband had no clue. He didn't care anything about the finances. Well, it turned out that she hadn't been paying the house note. And guess what? The house went into foreclosure. That's when he reached out to me. That's when he found out there were real problems going on with her. Folks, the takeaway from that is you've got to keep up with the finances. Whether you're the one writing the bills or not, you've got to know what the bills are. You've got to know what's coming in, what's going out, what credit cards are being used. I see so many times in so many cases, one spouse being in control of the money and the other one having absolutely no clue. He had to file bankruptcy in that case, completely ruined his credit. Did you know that if you're found to have committed an act of violence against the other parent of your children, that your parenting time will be limited by the court? Here's a common scenario. 2 parties that are parents of children get into an argument. It becomes physical at some point. The police are called and you're arrested and taken to jail. Now, you may be found guilty of domestic assault, or you may have an order of protection put against you for those same acts of violence that form the basis of the criminal charge. Either way, you now have a finding by a court that you committed an act of domestic violence. And the law in Tennessee, as in most states, requires the court that sets custody and visitation to limit your parenting time based on either the order of protection or a finding of guilt in a criminal case. Be very careful with these orders of protection and with pleading guilty in criminal cases to acts of domestic violence, because it can and will affect your parenting time. I spent about 30 minutes on the phone today trying to convince my client that it was far less expensive to pay child support than it would be to have custody of the kids. And that's usually true. You know, when you raise kids and you have custody of kids, you've got to pay for everything out of pocket. And what little money you get in child support barely covers any of those expenses. So it's oftentimes much cheaper to just simply pay child support than it is to have to pay out of pocket for all of those expenses: food, clothing, shelter. And in this case, I think I finally convinced my client that that was the case. But you know, kids are expensive. We don't always realize that. But if we were to itemize out all the expenses for our kids when we're raising our kids, we would be appalled at how much it costs. And many times, just simply paying child support, $500, $600, $700 a month, is far cheaper than the out-of-pocket costs of raising your kids.